In a federal courthouse in Manhattan today, we learned that defendant Donald J. Trump will not testify in his civil rape trial. That significant development comes after E. Jean Carroll wrapped up a marathon of testimony where she told the jury that Trump raped her in a department store in the 1990s. Today, on day 5 of the trial, the jury heard from Lisa Birnbach, a longtime friend of Carroll's, who testified that Carroll called her just minutes after she said she was assaulted by Donald Trump. Birnbach said that during the call, Carroll sounded, quote, breathless, hyperventilating, emotional, and that Carroll told her, quote, he pulled down my tights. He pulled down my tights. Birnbach told the jury, I want the world to know that she was telling the truth. Carroll's lawyers also called Jessica Leeds to the stand. She said Donald Trump assaulted her on a flight to New York in 1979, telling the jury that, quote, all of a sudden Trump decided to kiss me and grope me. He was grabbing my breasts. It's like he had 40 zillion hands. Carroll's team is also planning to call another woman to the stand who says Donald Trump assaulted her in order to establish a pattern of behavior. Trump has denied everything, and his lawyers are trying to make this out to be a case of he said, she said. But when it comes to Donald Trump and accusations of assault, it's he said, she said, she said, she said. MSNBC legal analyst Lisa Rubin has been following this case from day one, and she joins me now. Lisa, thanks for coming on the show. What is the effect of the testimony from Lisa Birnbach and Jessica Leeds today, do you think?
I think it has a lot of impact. And, Mehdi, it reminds me of the Me Too movement writ large. E. Jean Carroll has testified that she was motivated to come forward after seeing the Weinstein reporting in the New York Times, that bombshell reporting about Harvey Weinstein having sexually assaulted numbers of women over the years in the fall of 2017. But not only did the Me Too movement inspire E. Jean Carroll to come forward, it taught lawyers something about how to present a sexual assault case. It taught us that, one, you got to find other people that the victim told at the time, particularly if they didn't report it to police.
Yes.
And you find other accusers. And that's how you corroborate the story of a sexual assault victim who didn't report to police, never screamed, didn't behave in some of the ways that we societally expect those victims to behave. You find their friends and you find other accusers. And Lisa Birnbach and Jessica Leeds were two sides of that coin today in trial.
So Donald Trump is not testifying at this trial. Instead, he's in Scotland breaking ground on a new golf course. What is the significance of him not even showing up to trial, let alone not testifying?
On one hand, Donald Trump is trying to signal to this jury, this is beneath me. This isn't even significant enough for me to show up. That's how much of a liar this woman is. On the other hand, it's a very smart strategy for his lawyers to keep him away, because we've read excerpts of his deposition in this case. They were released as part of motion practice in the case in January. And that deposition was, Mehdi, just a disaster for Donald Trump. That's the deposition where, confronted with a picture of himself and his then-wife Ivana Trump meeting E. Jean Carroll and her then-husband John Johnson, he looked down and said, oh, that's Marla, mistaking her for his second wife, Marla Maples. The problem is that Marla Maples was exactly his type. In fact, he's been videotaped saying in a very bizarre way that he hoped his then one-year-old daughter would turn out to be every bit as beautiful as Marla Maples, and talked about particular physical attributes, right? So
I remember that.
Yes, it was quite disturbing. But if Marla Maples was his type, and then he looks at a picture of E. Jean Carroll and thinks it's Marla Maples, how then is it credible for him to say, she's not my type, which, as E. Jean Carroll testified, is basically a translation for she's too ugly to assault?
He does say some odious stuff. Trump's lawyer, Joe Tacopina, tried to discredit Jessica Leeds and her story by asking her repeatedly why she did not report the assault that she said took place on that flight. If she screamed, why she did not even tell a friend. What do you make of that line of questioning? You mentioned Me Too in 2017. What do you make of that kind of questioning in 2023?
It's really retrograde, right? It's not. And E. Jean Carroll even said on the stand, in 2023, it's stunning to me that you would ask me those sorts of questions. And Jessica Leeds is 81 to E. Jean Carroll's 79. They are both a part of what Carroll called on the stand the silent generation. They were taught to be complacent and docile and not make a scene and accommodating and to care more about others' feelings than about themselves. It's not surprising to me that Jessica Leeds, after her assault, behaved very much in the same way that E. Jean Carroll did. The only difference is E. Jean Carroll confided in two close friends at the time and told them never to speak of it again. And Jessica Leeds really had to see Donald Trump become a candidate for president to realize how disturbed she was by his prominence in American life and that she needed to come forward.
Last question for you, Lisa. What's next in this civil trial? Who will be testifying next? What can we expect next?
Now that E. Jean Carroll is off the stand, we're moving at a sort of rapid clip. Betty, we saw the two witnesses that you mentioned today, and we saw the beginning of testimony from Leslie Leibowitz. She is a psychiatric expert and a trauma expert who's going to talk about what the scientific research shows about how trauma victims actually do behave, that they freeze rather than scream, that it is commonplace for people to nervously laugh or fall back on other nervous habits following an assault, and most importantly, perhaps, how trauma imprints itself on the memory and why it is that E. Jean Carroll can't remember certain details while others are absolutely vivid for her. That's going to be tomorrow. After that, we'll hear from Carol Martin, who is the other friend E. Jean told in real time, Natasha Stoynoff, who's the other accuser, a couple of other experts, and then I expect this case to wrap up either on Thursday of this week or Monday of next week.